Why would anyone even consider replacing OBS? Is the first question I asked when I jumped on a call with the Meld team. OBS is free, it's super powerful, it's backed by Twitch and YouTube, and everybody uses it. So they walked me through their software. And there are a lot of streamers using OBS that should be using Meld. Like, Meld makes setting up a simple, beautiful stream the easiest thing on the planet. Also, as you'll see later in the video, I ended up working with the Meld team to create some really cool, simple plugins that make your stream pop, that are just built right into Meld. But just to give Meld a true test, I've spent the last couple weeks in OBS recreating a brand new stream design for my stream, and I wanted to see how long it would take me to redo that all in Meld. It took me 17 minutes.
I think that's it. I mean, that's the majority of it. Yeah, that took 17 minutes. Sick.
Let me just show you everything. Now, the first thing I noticed is that Meld uses more toner. It's got a darker interface. I printed this off using today's sponsor, HP. Oh, look. Meld's feature list. HP, by the way, is America's most trusted printer brand. So if you're looking for a black and white laser printer for your professional needs, this bad boy, the HP LaserJet Pro MFP 3101 SDW printer, is fast and reliable. I wasn't even reading that. But if you don't have it memorized like I do, because you probably don't, I'll just put a link to it in the description. This stealthy little thing also features the HP Wolf Pro security, so you know your network is always secure. You can connect all of your devices to it, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, probably your refrigerator nowadays, so you can print, scan, and copy from anywhere using their easy-to-use printing app. And if you want a hardware connect to it, it's got whatever I/O you need, whether that's Ethernet, USB, dual-band Wi-Fi. It's not picky. It's there for you. So spend less time managing your printer and more time growing your business with the most dependable printers in the industry. And stay connected with dependable Wi-Fi that automatically reconnects to keep your printer online. Let's get back to the video. Meld is interesting. The whole reason it exists is because OBS has become way too complicated. There are endless options and settings, except the few simple things that every streamer would love to have on their stream are insanely difficult to set up. Things like moving transitions, rounding the corners of your camera, a simple drop shadow. These things require not only installing third-party software, but once you do install it, it's still not easy to set up. So Meld was made, oh, and by the way, this is not sponsored by Meld. I already told you who the sponsor was. We got through that section. I feel like I just need to let you know that up front. But Meld was made with the 99% of streamers in mind. They don't need all the complicated stuff. They just want to be able to make a fun, simple, and beautiful stream in a couple minutes. So let me use those three things that I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to set them up in OBS, and then I'm going to set them up in Meld, and I want you to see the difference here. What we've got going on here is I've got two main scenes that we're going to be going back and forth here. We got our gaming scene, where I got my camera over on the side, and then the display capture here, and we're going to be jumping back and forth between this one and my chatting scene, where the camera pulls down, the display fades to a blur, and now I can talk to my audience between games. I wanted something that didn't feel like two completely separate scenes that you're jumping back and forth between, but rather one situation where things moved where they needed to go. And the fact that it parallaxes like this, I think is a really cool effect. In order for this to work, we're gonna search OBS Move Transition. Here we go, it's called Move. You have to know these things beforehand by watching a video like this. We're gonna download it. I've already done it. We're gonna install it. We're gonna restart OBS. And now if we go to scene transitions and we hit plus, there is a new move transition right there. Inside there, once we add it, we can go to properties and we have all of this. And it is powerful, but it's a lot. And all I'm trying to do is just get my sources to move when I transition between scenes. Now, eventually I did get it to work exactly the way I wanted, but some of the issues that happened were when I was moving down to this scene here, I had to go out here and move my camera down here like that. And also make sure that it was the exact same distance from the edge so there was no wiggling back and forth, which sometimes happened when you don't line it up just right. To get this transition working, this probably took me 4 hours of working on it. I was also able to find that smooth transition between the two backgrounds there.
And I did so by technically making them two different display captures. You can see display capture 2, but on this one, it's just display capture. They're two different sources using the same exact source, but one of them has a blur and a color correction effect on it. And then you go in here, you go to properties, and you look for match if the source name with numbers removed from the end matches the other source name. That's the box you want to check. That way, it sees that there's display capture on this one and display capture 2 on this one and recognizes that they're supposed to be the same source, and it moves one to the other. And then I had to find the option for with matched items, I had to move this from none to fade, because when it was set to none by default, it did this. Boop. And there goes the blur. Boop. Let me fix that before I forget where it is. But eventually, we nailed it. Now let's try it in Meld. So if this is your first time seeing Meld, the layout's a little bit different here. You got your scenes, and then you got your sources, which are called layers in Meld. I've got these two empty scenes here we're gonna be using. In scene 1, we're gonna add my camera. So a video device, stretch it out a little bit, pick my camera. Here we go. Let's crop it in, which you do by double clicking and then just dragging in, and you can see it'll snap to an even, there we go. Snap to an even crop. That's fine. Maybe bring it a little bit smaller and put it over here. Now in scene 2, let's add the same thing. Video device. Same source. We'll crop this one a little bit different, just for good measure. Yeah, we'll make the super wide angle and then we'll stretch it across the scene here. And now watch this. That was it. That's the whole thing. It's just on by default. That's the default transition. All you have to do is add the same source into two different scenes and it works that way. Now, something you need to know is that if you change the name, we're gonna call this camera. Notice it doesn't work anymore. That's because what it does is it just takes whatever layers are named the same, and that's what it has them move to. So if I name them both camera, now it works again. Pretty cool. Let's move on to the second one. Let's say on my gaming scene here, I just wanna round my corners off just a little bit, make it nice and clean. Let's try to do that. In order to do that, I'm gonna right click on my camera, I'm gonna add a filter, and we're gonna add a filter called Image Mask and Blend. And now I need a mask, which is basically an image overlay that I can place on this. The main issue I'm seeing with this right now, I didn't realize until shooting, is that I have this cropped in, but the mask is going to apply to the entire image. So I can't use my simple crop that I did over here. This is gonna take a minute. Give me a sec, I need to screenshot my image here, bring it to my Mac over there where my photo software is, make an image mask and bring it back here. All right, I made a mask, here it is. Let's just leave it on the desktop for now. Let's hope I did it right, I haven't done it in a while. Alpha channel. And there we go. Okay, so you can see because I cropped it, I didn't quite get the mask in the same place as my crop. So let's bring this back out and then bring this down. It's pretty close though. I feel like I rounded the corners a tiny bit too much. I would have liked them a little less rounded than that, but in order for me to fix that, I have to make a whole new mask. And I'm not gonna do that. So it is what it is. This is where our mask is. And I also just realized that now, okay, good. I was worried that it was gonna apply to my other one too, but it didn't. Oh, but you can see as I transition, this kind of does this weird thing now because the mask is only on one of them. So I gotta apply it to both. Whatever. That's okay. So anyway, doable, not enjoyable. You kind of have to make the mask not knowing how the end result's gonna turn out, or you have to go back and forth and make the mask multiple times and try over and over again. Let's do it in Meld. All right, rounded corners in Meld. Let's crop this in similar to the last one. Just for fun, we'll make it a scene really similar to the last one. Here you go, crop it in a little bit more like it was. That looks pretty much the same as the last one. So we wanna make a rounded corner, right? Let's go and grab a mask. Just kidding. They added it straight in. They realized that everybody wanted rounded corners, so they just added rounded corners. Oh, I made them too rounded. Let's just bring it back up a little bit. That looks great. Let's make them a little bit more rounded. What are we at, 15? Let's bring it up to like 26. Ah, there we go. 26 is right spot on. Cool, rounded corners are done. Oh, I'm actually just noticing now that the mask broke my vertical scene because they're using the same source. Because if you apply it to one source, it applies to all of them. So that's what I was worried about between the two scenes down here. Anyway, back to the drop shadow. So on this scene, you can see I wanted a drop shadow there to make the camera feel like it's in front of the background. What I did was I installed OBS drop shadow plugin. I found Stroke Glow Shadow. So this plugin is supposed to give you a stroke, which is like an outline, a glow, which is like a blurry outline, and a shadow. I installed it, and let's duplicate this scene just so I can mess with one. Let's bring this camera back to its original form here. So I'm gonna add a shadow here. And you will notice we don't see any shadow. There's no shadow. No matter what we do to this, there's no shadow showing here. Let me show you why. So if I were to reshape this with that same image mask, make sure we put it at the top there so the mask comes first. We're gonna throw the same mask on there. Here we go. The shadow shows up, look at that. Here is our shadow. So let's change the size a little bit, which is the blur. Now the reason it didn't show up before is because this shadow can't show up outside the bounding box, the red box of the source, which means whatever you want to cast a shadow has to be smaller than the entire size of the source. The moment we take this mask off, there is a shadow there, but it's being cut off by the outside of the source. And you might think, oh, that's okay, because on your original scene like this, you cropped it in. I cropped off the top and the bottom like this to make it wider, so it should show up, right? Well, actually no, because when you crop this in, I'll show you on this one over here. When you crop this in, it crops out the shadow. It just doesn't work unless you also make an image mask, which is a terrible experience. So there's an advanced way to make this work. I could have added my camera into another scene, shrunk the camera down a little bit so there were edges around it, then entered that scene as the source, and there would have been space for the drop shadow. But at that point, it was just easier to go make a blurry rectangle in Photoshop and add that in underneath as a fake shadow. Let me just show you how it's done in Meld. All right, let's move this camera on top of the bright area so you can see the shadow. Can we just flip it? I actually didn't know you could do that. We'll flip it around with effects. Add an effect. Look at that. Let's maybe bring it to this side. Add the blur in a little bit. Maybe a little bit darker, a little bit more blur. Look at that. That's how you do a drop shadow. I'm gonna be honest. This right here would be an incredible scene for Twitch. Nice rounded corner camera with a drop shadow. That's awesome. That looks better and cleaner than most Twitch streams. And it took me 30 seconds. I also just found out that when you flip one of the layers and you use the move transition, it does this. That's pretty cool.
Now, there are some circumstances where OBS has a little bit of an advantage here. For example, in the Move plugin made by Exceldro, who is a phenomenal dev, you have so many more options there. It allows me to do some cooler things like have my source fade to a blur during the transition. The Masks plugin, even though it takes a million times longer, you can technically get any shape that you want out of it. The drop shadow, as I mentioned, is a total mess. I just gave up. Like OBS, it can't do a drop shadow. But I wanna show you some other really cool things about Meld, and I wanna show you the widgets that we made together.
So let's add in these two widgets. And these are actually being finished today as I'm showing you this. So there'll be some slight changes to these, but we're gonna hit the plus button up here. We're gonna go down to widget. We're gonna go to combo train. This will be called combo by the time this video is released. But this is essentially just a train widget. So you got a little bar here. We'll throw it behind our camera to have it just barely peeking out from behind the camera. It's hard to see what's going on here until we change the color. So let me change the empty color here to white, just so you can see what we're working with here. It's got a nice little fade to white there. So this is a train, and this is gonna respond to whatever events that you put at it. Let's preview an event here. You can see it fills up the bar, and then over the course of the next 5 minutes, this bar is just gonna shrink down. And the next time someone subscribes or drops bits or anything, it's gonna fill back up, just like this. with a neat little animation. And that's the whole thing, just an ultra clean train or combo widget that just continues every time something happens. And the idea is to combine this with a remake of a widget we had before. If you remember the rotating widget that just showed you the most recent event. So it's called Spotlight here. Let's add another widget. Let's put it on top of the camera. All it does is it shows you the most recent events. So it'll rotate between the most recent follower, most recent subscriber, cheer, YouTube member, YouTube super chat. You decide what you want it to show, and then it just rotates between them. And every time something happens and this combo goes back to the top, this switches to what just happened there. So the idea was to take that HUD that I made a long time ago and released to you guys and make it something super modern, super clean, and super customizable. So with this train, I can change the color of this train, both a single color or a gradient. So let's make it red and white. Get some nice senpai colors in there. We'll keep the back dark instead. And then what we'll do is when it's done, we'll actually bring it in so the train will disappear behind my camera. And now that's my entire overlay. So enjoy them. They're still being updated and polished, but they're very functional right now. And I was blown away. The Meld team made this in like 2 weeks. That's when I brought this idea to them. So super cool.
And just a short list of a couple more really cool things in Meld. Number one, snapping is awesome and easy. Have you ever tried to line up two sources and you can never get it just right? Mine right now in OBS is like that. And it's so easy to line it up in Meld. The built-in color effects are super fun and easy. Being able to change the streaming bitrate while you're live. I've had to stop a live stream and restart it because I started it in the wrong bitrate. I don't know if that's something you've done before. I feel like it's an everybody thing, but maybe it's just me. Also, super easy cropping presets. The list, it doesn't end. It goes on and on. There are moments where you can tell it's relatively new software and things need to be fixed and polished. For example,
hey, so update about 12 hours later, the Meld team already figured out what the problem with that issue was, fixed it, and pushed it out in an update, and mine's running perfectly smooth. So that's a thing you should know.
But the thing is, these guys push out huge new updates every 2 weeks with major improvements in them. Like their latest update added those 2 brand new widgets and an undo and redo button, which sounds simple, but OBS didn't have an undo button until version 27. So here's the deal. Let me know in the comments or talk to me about it in my next live stream, both here on this YouTube channel and on Twitch. I'll link to everything down below. Let me know if you're interested in switching to Meld and ask me any questions you have about it. If it looks like you guys are just as excited about Meld as I am, I will make a whole streaming masterclass video about it and explain from start to finish how to set up a stream in Meld so you can set up your own. That being said, I don't think it's necessary. It is insanely easy software to use. Like, that's the whole point. In fact, nothing would make me happier is if some of you guys saw this video, learned about Meld, switched to it, and finally were able to make the stream of your dreams. Like, that's my dream. That's the dream right there. That's all of our dreams. As for if I'm officially moving to Meld, there is one feature that I need to have right now, and it's not on Meld right now. And it's an advanced feature. It's enhanced broadcasting with Twitch. It's kind of a niche feature that 99.9% of streamers don't need and don't use, but I do. And if I didn't need it, yeah, I'd be on Meld today. I'd be on Meld right now. So I hope this helps. Hit the like button and subscribe if it did. And as always, happy streaming. I'll see you in the next one.